Hi, I'm Dr. Ada Wells, and welcome to ProBalance TV. And today what we're going to talk about is the oov, and we're going to be utilizing the oov with the reformer. Now, one thing that I want you to consider when you're working with people on the reformer, doing something such as footwork, you know, when we think about what is the purpose of footwork, part of the purpose is actually, you know, watching what's going on with the lower extremity alignment, but a really important part of it is actually having good core control and being able to dissociate, move freely and independently from the hip joints. So the thing is that if we're on a flat surface, all right, so I'm going to take everything right here. So if I'm on a flat surface and I'm doing that, you know, I can be giving the cues, you know, feeling the hips sink into the socket, and I'm able to just work on that element. But the thing that's a little bit artificial here is that when I'm on the stable surface, there's not the normal kind of, there's some small, more subtle movements that occur at the pelvic bones and in the spine that when we're artificially stabilized here do not necessarily translate to real life. So in some sense it is good to be able to bring this awareness, but the question is, can we make this exercise better for somebody? And the answer is yes, okay? So once I have, you know, if this is something that I'm trying to work with somebody on, I might actually add the oov. Now here's the caveat with the oov. The oov does take a little bit of practice just being able to work with it on a flat surface, like on a mat, to really get the hang of how to mount and dismount it. Because when we are mounting on a reformer, it's a little bit trickier. But that being said, it gives such fabulous feedback. So I'm going to actually utilize a little deflated ball for my head, because sometimes people will artificially try to use their head to stabilize when they're a little bit off balance. But because of the shape of the oov, it's going to create some stability here in the sagittal plane, but it's going to allow for instability in a rotational transverse plane. And because I have the cutouts here where my shoulder blades are going, my shoulder blades are free, and they can now actually work in conjunction with my pelvis in a more three-dimensional manner. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to line this up and mount my reformer. It's a little bit, like I said, it's a little trickier, especially if you're longer legged. And because I'm going to actually have the idea of almost hip seating and hip dissociation as my goal, I'm going to scoot further down my oov so that you can see I'm almost in a little bit of an anterior tilt, and my knees are a little bit close, more, you know, closer to what you typically would have, but I want the patient or the client to feel the hips really dropping into the socket, okay, because that's something that they really don't get a good sense of, especially if they're going into a squat. And so from here I can go ahead and just push back and forth. Now I have a lighter spring than I would typically do footwork with. Right now I think I just have 2 red springs, which is much lighter than what I usually use. But when I'm working on control, when I'm working on awareness, actually a lighter spring, I might even put a red and a blue or red and yellow for more challenge. That's going to make things a little bit more interesting. Okay, so already when I'm going into my extension here, I'm actually getting more full extension of my hips. That's something that you don't necessarily get when you're lying down on the surface of the reformer, unless you put your foot bar down a little bit. But because the oov has propped me up, I can get a little bit more into this hip extension, but now I can really feel the hips just kind of suck into the socket here. And notice that everything is quiet. My ribs are quiet. I don't have to give a bunch of cues of drop the ribs. If I saw the ribs popping up, I would maybe add a little force vector. I might add a couple weights to the person's hand, and I would see those ribs just drop out of the way. Okay? Now, this is great. No problem, 2 feet. But now, what happens when we just do it on a single leg? Already, this person might actually get on here, and now you can really feel where there is some instability. So you might just have a person just do their little small femur arcs here from the reformer. And this is something that can be done against a wall. Okay, I'm just showing it on the reformer just so we get a little bit more of a broader picture. Now I'm going to go ahead and just stay on a single leg, and I'm going to just push back and forth here. Now I have my arms up towards the ceiling to make this more challenging, I could just keep my elbows down just to help me with some stability early on, and then I can just lift up the elbows so that my outriggers are there, but I'm not going to completely fall off. Now note that sometimes as I'm pushing up here, I am getting some stability from the shoulder rest, but I could remedy that by just getting my oof down. Okay, but I'm getting a lot more feedback as to, is there an imbalance? Am I trying to artificially utilize a certain strategy to do that single leg press, or is it pretty equal on both sides? And I do feel a difference between my two sides and how stable I feel. And so once again, you can be watching for what's happening. You can, usually the person will feel something. They don't know what they feel, but you as the practitioner can be watching them and you see something happen, and you can usually, like I said, just add a little vector of force and that will clear everything up. All right, so now we can think about maybe we want to just go part of the way up or halfway up, and let's just go ahead and add an element of transverse challenge. All right, and I'm close to this wall, so I'm going to hit it. But this starts making things a lot more interesting. Okay, now I don't have to stop here in the middle. I just did for something different. I can go down here, and now I'm really having to rely much more on force closure of my pelvis, which is the ability of the musculature to stabilize the pelvis, as opposed to when I'm in, this is form closure of the pelvis. So the shape of my bones and how they are actually sitting at the pelvis is actually creating stability there, okay? And I can obviously do this on both sides. I can start here in a form closed position and just slowly moving. I'm moving pretty fast. I would do this slower, and I'd probably do it with a little weight in my hand just to give some feedback. I can go part of the way up, and here I'm already feeling that there's definitely some areas that are a little bit more unstable than others. And I can go all the way up to an extended position. I'm still keeping my knee soft. It's not completely locked out. And just pay attention to what happens with the person with their breath. Do they go out there and they start holding the breath? And if so, they're using breath as their way of stabilizing. So we need to kind of upregulate their abdominals to basically get them to start utilizing their breath to breathe, and they're actually utilizing their deep core stabilizers to actually bring stability and bring balance to that work. So this is just a short example of how you can utilize the OOV with something as simple as footwork and kind of the things that you would be thinking about when you're doing it. If you are somebody who's interested in learning more, there are OOV level 1, level 2, level 3 courses for fitness professionals, rehab professionals, Pilates professionals that we have at ooveducation.com. I'll put the link down below on that. And also just considering, when you are, this is something that's a little bit newer, you might not see these around. So if you're interested at all, depending where you are in the country, just put a little message down below. Let me know where you're at, and I'll see if I can hook you up with somebody who is knowledgeable. So maybe you're just somebody who, you're a Pilates enthusiast, and you're looking at that going, wow, that looks really fun. So there will be some online courses for Pilates enthusiasts. I also do have some places where you can find more exercises, and that's in my membership site at ProBalance.tv. And you can go in there, and there are actually exercises when you go into the mini workout section. I actually do have just little more mat workouts that are using the OOV. So that's another place that you can get some ideas. Okay, I hope you guys have a good day, and we'll see you next time.